a 5-watt red LED downlight. This was available in a variety of colours, but I chose red. And I just randomly bidden this in an auction in the UK. I think it was from one of the Chinese warehouses in the UK. And I won it for the base price of 99 pence, plus they usually make up for that in the shipping. So it has this backplate that you screw to the wall, you bring the wires through and then you screw it on. I have to say there's not a lot of clearance. Even just put it in and out a couple of times, it's really scraped these wires. When it uses a standard little sort of fairly universal ballast that takes 3 to 5 1-watt LEDs and current limits about 300 milliamps. And that has got a connector on it for the low voltage side, and I shall just stuff it into the mains here. I have already tested this, and it came out at 4.9 watts, which is a lot higher than I was expecting for a 5-watt LED light. Usually these things are just 2 or 3 watts. And it's bright, it's very bright indeed. So let's open it up and have a look. I'll just put that quick block out the way. So this plate here on the screws and it's got the LED circuit board in the front. It's stuck on with a hard, firm rubbery silicon rubber, the stuff that's going to be acting as not just the thermal heatsink compound but the glue. The circuit board looks fairly universal. It does say 5 watt on it, FH-751 as some sort of model number. The plastic lens in the front, which I find just a little bit too diffusing, I have to say. I get the feeling that the LEDs are so close to the edge that it would actually be more efficient if they just made that a bit wider, but the plastic lens is held in by a metal spring clip that is just pushed in and then released, so that would be quite hard to get out of anyway, I think. The power supply module is just screwed onto the back of this, and if you consider that this is the bit that's going to get hot, this is the bit that's really going to get, well, a 5-watt lamp. It's pretty much going to get 5 watts of heat given the poor actual efficiency of LEDs as light sources, despite the fact they're relatively efficient. Well, they're very efficient by light standards. They still dissipate most of their energy as heat. So here's the little power supply. I'll just unplug that, in fact. It's kind of randomly twisted round, probably just to keep the wiring fairly neat. As I say, I'm not overly keen the fact that the power supply is on the heatsink. To me, that's going to result in a shortening of life of the power supply, which is just the generic type. It's that 4.7 megafarad. It's just the cliched 4.7 megafarad 400 volt. It's got the discrete rectifier. I wonder if that's a bright power chip in there. I shall try and take a look. Where's my little microscope? I've just buried my microscope, haven't I? Here it is. I'm guessing it's either bright power or one of the other variants that seem to have jumped in the bandwagon. It's a bright power BP9011. And that's one of their sort of newer generation of LED drivers, which doesn't require... The first versions of these, they actually had to have a second winding on the transformer for powering the chip itself with an extra little diode and capacitor. And that was also used as feedback. But on this version, it's virtually... it's so component light. It's got usually got a little snubber network across the transformer, the primary, and then just a couple of components that set values, like sensing the current through the transformer. And then the output, it will just be a diode and a capacitor. And underneath I can see what looks like a diode there, and what looks like a capacitor there. So that's fundamentally it, just a generic power supply. But physically, this is quite nice. As I say, I think maybe I'd actually rather want to... I'd perhaps like to put the power supply, keep this bit in here, but actually bring the low voltage connector through the back, and if possible mount the power supply remotely. I think it would last a lot longer that way if the power supply was mounted this side of the plate, so to speak. Other than that, you know, it's quite a nice little assembly. It's really quite neat, and could look quite stylish as decorative lighting.